Hello, everyone. Welcome to our final Meet the Writers live on YouTube. This has been an amazing summer supporting 9 musicals, 18 writers, and tonight we'll talk to the writing teams of the last 2 weeks of our 9 week of residencies. So I'm going to ask each team to introduce themselves. So let's start with the Shapeshifters team, which they had the residency a week ago.
Hi, I'm Bachman. My pronouns are they, them, theirs, and I am music, lyrics, and words of Shapeshifters.
Hey, what's up? I'm Zhailon Levingston. My pronouns are he, him, his. Super excited to be here with these amazingly talented people. And I am story creation and direction.
Awesome. And the writers of Rope, which is finishing its residency right now.
Hi,
Hey,
I'm Ryan.
Oh, you go first, Ryan.
I'm gonna go first. I'm Ryan Scott Oliver. My pronouns are he, him, his. I'm writing the music and the lyrics for the musical that was once called Rope and will be called something else at some point in the future.
Hey, I'm Adam Chanler-Berat, and my pronouns are he, him, his, and I am writing the book of the musical formerly known as Rope.
Awesome. And I think I forgot to say I am the founder and executive director of Rhinebeck Writers Retreat, and my pronouns are she, her, hers. So welcome everybody. Truth and Zhailon, where are you? It's so unusual to see two people together. Where are you right now?
We are sharing one Zoom box.
Yes, we are. Just inhabiting the space. We are in South Slope, Brooklyn.
Awesome. And Adam and Ryan, where are you each?
I'm also in Brooklyn. I'm in Greenpoint.
And I am on the Upper East Side.
And I'm on the Upper West Side. So we're all New York City this time. Usually we have far afield writers, but we're all New York City. Yay! New York City strong. So first, we're going to hear from Truth and Zhailon, and Ryan and Adam will be coming back in the second half of our program. So we'll say goodbye to Adam and Ryan now. So Truth and Zhailon.
Yes.
Yes. Tell us about Shapeshifters and the story behind Shapeshifters.
Yeah, so Shapeshifters is a queer comic book musical is what we're calling it. And it follows the story of a young teenage non-binary person named Mel, who is in the process of discovering who they are and how they show up in the world. And everybody's constantly asking Mel the question, what are you? What are you? And so Mel, with a loss of vocabulary for how to answer that, creates in their mind this underground tribe of queer superheroes that are drawn in their comic book, and they're called the Shapeshifters. And the Shapeshifters serve as sort of Mel's spirit guides and core team to move them through life.
And Zhailon, tell us a little bit about what you were focusing on during your week with Rhinebeck Writers Retreat.
Yeah, so we've done something that we've never done before, which is we've been working on Shapeshifters for about a year and a half, some change, and it has always been in a musical form for the stage. And the challenge and the exciting task that we gave ourselves over the week is to figure out what it would be like to try to turn this into a television show. And so the week was actually about studying and figuring out how this story could be fit into a pilot and how we could justify a series of episodes that an audience could come back to every week, how to create a musical vocabulary that works for television, knowing that the reason why music exists on screen may function in distinctive ways that are different than the reason music may exist on stage. And then there's also very exciting intersections where the music is doing the same thing that it would be doing on stage. And so figuring that out and yeah, I think part of the reason we really wanted to do this is that from the very beginning, I think we were creating not only a story and not only characters that fit into a story, but we were really creating this like new universe, this new world for the story to even be in. And there's just so much story that we wanted to tell. And TV is such an exciting medium at the moment. It felt like this was an angle that we could help to innovate in TV that we don't see a lot of. There's music on TV in the form of a Glee or a form of a more kind of musical comedy format. But could we get television to actually take kind of musical storytelling seriously in a new kind of way? So that was the challenge, and that's what we spent our week trying to do.
And did you tell me you're also thinking about making it like 10-minute episodic, a series of episodes?
So it's going to be a series of episodes, probably in short form. Right now, we are not sure in terms of if it'll be like 10 minutes or if it'll be 25 minutes, but it definitely wants to live in a either half hour or below format. We kind of gave ourselves the challenge of just pretending as if the networks that we want to work on bought the show, and we had to deliver something to them. And so we kind of worked in that vein and worked in very new ways that we had never worked before. We have like our little colorful wall of note cards where we have all of our different storylines and characters intersecting, and it's been fun to expand the way that we traditionally write. You want to say anything about this process?
Yeah, you know, I come from a musical theater background. I've been doing musical theater for as long as I've been breathing. And to explore writing in this way, which is much more structured in some ways, and still finding the ways in which we can translate the ideas of an experimental musical space and creating musical story in a medium that, you know, we're used to viewing music videos and things of that nature in, and how to bring the audience along in a way that feels organic with that. So it's been a really cool exploration of that.
What excites me about your idea, by the way, it makes so much sense during the pandemic to just figure out another way to get your work out there, but also that sort of this comic book fantasy story lends itself to your creating a whole new medium to tell the story.
Yeah.
And I just love the way the story itself lends itself to the medium that you're choosing.
It's, you know, it's so funny you say that, Kathy, because this piece to me, while it is about the shapeshifters that we are as queer people and as people who are creating the shapes of the world that we want to see in the future, this piece also has taken many iterations. I received a grant at first to write a piece for the Duplex down near Christopher Park, coming up to the 50th anniversary of Stonewall. And I thought, before I started writing it, you know, where am I and what is the symbolism of this place and what does it mean to be in a place that is so loaded with this history? And so what started as a cabaret, then we developed into a concert cycle, song cycle, and then into a musical with 2 acts, and now it's becoming this. And true to its name, Shapeshifters does just that. It shifts to whatever form that it needs to take to deliver its message.
That's wonderful. So do you want to head us towards the first song that we're going to be hearing
For sure. So the first song that we'll hear tonight is a song called Tested. I wrote this song for the first song cycle incarnation of Shapeshifters playlist. And it was inspired by the AIDS crisis and the sort of all too familiar reckoning with a deadly virus that is ravaging a community of people. And in the lyrics, you'll hear just kind of a list of doctor's office items. But sort of what the music evokes in that is the feeling that all of those items come to take when you're in this sort of compromised situation. And in the play, you'll hear me read some of the text from the play beforehand, but this has grown to become also about gender dysphoria and feeling like one does not belong in the body to which they're born.
Is it sung by the hero, Mel?
This song is sung by another character actually, who goes by Shadow.
Okay,
By Shadow.
great. So let's listen to Tested.
When I was a kid, I didn't know what I was or was not. I was just me. But one morning, I woke up and I looked in the mirror and I could swear the face staring back at me wasn't my own. And I thought, well, that can't be right. I know what my own face looks like, and that's not it. So I go to this doctor, and he asked me these questions like, do you ever dream that you're outside of your own body? Do you ever see yourself as somebody else? Do you ever disappear entirely? And I thought, of course. Doesn't everybody? Blue latex gloves, green pajama scrubs worn by nurses across the world, and fluids and cotton swabs, dark red tubes and little jars. My blood is like a fountain flowing from deep wells, coursing from my beating heart, tigress, river of my cells. My doctor doctors out for blood. My doctor's touch is like a flood. My doctor could be anyone, anyone. Latex gloves, green pajama scrubs worn by nurses across the world, and fluids and cotton swabs, dark red tubes and little jars. My blood is like a fountain flowing from deep wells, coursing from my beating heart, tigress, river of my cells. My doctor doctors out for blood. My doctor's touch is like a flood. My doctor could be anyone, anyone. My doctor can't recall my name. My doctor leaves me with the blame. My doctor could be anyone, anyone. Anyone, 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 anyone. Anyone, 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 anyone. Blood is like a fountain. Anyone, anyone. My blood is like a fountain. Blood is like a fountain. Hospital gowns.
Wow, so beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you for recording that for us this week, Truth.
Absolutely. So
really.
fun.
Yeah, really, really beautiful. One of the elements of the story that really intrigued me was the relationship, if you wouldn't mind sharing, with about Mel Hero, and then I forget the name of the older character.
Future hero.
Mm.
I'm sorry.
Future hero.
Yes, Future Hero. If you could tell us about that relationship and what it means in Shapeshifters.
Yeah, without giving too much away, I just would say that one of the questions that drove me to write the story to begin with was thinking about how I survived adolescence. I went to a historically all-boys school for 6 years, and they were some of the roughest years of my life. And when I look back on it, and I ask myself, how did I make it through that experience? I don't really have an answer. I didn't have an answer. And the only thing that I could gather was that in instances like me sitting here talking to you right now, that I am somehow sending a vibration of myself today back through time. And some part of me at that young age, as a 14-year-old, as a 15-year-old, hears this message and makes the decision in that to stay in the game because that message on some level was received. And a conversation that we're exploring in this narrative is, what is it to be in conversation with one's future self? And what happens if you don't like who that person is? And so there's this duality of like, who will I become? How did I get to this point? And how do each of those pieces of the puzzle have to come together in order to save each other, as I feel saved by my younger self every day? So that's sort of what we're exploring in that.
And in our initial conversations around this theme, you know, it was definitely my entry point into the piece is the exact same thing, which is like, how did I not end up like other people who were in similar situations where you felt like your world was falling apart at a certain age and you made some kind of choice to move forward. But I think conversely, what we're investigating too is the possibility that our current selves need our younger selves as well. That we're in moments find ourselves reaching back in time to remember as well. And so this idea of our future selves needing our younger selves and our younger selves needing our future selves, and only that exchange, you know, really makes its own lane for queer people to survive in the world that we're in today. And that lane and the time and track that it is on, we call queer time.
Queer time, wonderful.
Yes.
I was very, being an older person, I was also relating to sort of losing touch with that younger child, or the inner child, some people call it, and how, you know, the older self being able to meet or talk with that person can be a revelatory thing. Yeah.
Life-saving, some might say.
Life-saving. I think I forgot to mention to everybody watching that please ask questions in YouTube chat, and we have one question here from Gigi Bolts. Can you say more about the essential impulse behind your work together? Is it story, music, character, a new form, or something else?
All.
Yeah.
I feel like the impulse, my initial impulse and language when I first started this playlist was like, how can I honor the moment of 50 years since the beginning of the modern queer liberation movement? So all of this comes with like, yeah, we're making a show, but also like we're trying to honor history, and we're trying to not only honor it, but also add to it. So with that legacy of history and community comes character, comes music, comes a collaboration for people with two different queer experiences, but that have so much similarity and overlap and connection, that this story, it almost feels like it's inevitable that it is told. Like,
and I would say too that there is, I think, a desire from both of us, and underneath every way we work on the piece, to figure out a vocabulary for the unspeakable. The unspeakable could be things that should be spoken and haven't been historically, so shining a light on that, and also finding new vocabulary to explain the thing we just explained to you, to explain queer time, this thing that seems actually so relatable to every queer person, no matter what their story is, that they and we experience time differently than the way this country and this world would like us to. And so finding new colors and new vocabulary and new music to put some meat on the bones for, you know, people who are just stepping into that experience, no matter what age they are, so that they can take this journey with us in a way that we can then pass on something to them, and that they can then pass on something to other people. Because I think we also are very concerned with lineage and history as the passing of the torch.
That's beautiful. Here's a question from Betsy King Militello. The idea of shapeshifting is so specific to your story, but also important for everyone right now, trying to find new paths forward, trying to find identity. Thank you.
And
She
Yeah.
says. Yeah.
that's just the truth. You know, we are constantly in the face of just this like immense change, and we're at a moment in time right now where all of us collectively are trying to meet that change and meet those changes, and also imagine what happens next. And that's really like what futurism is about. Is like how is us having this conversation right now instrumental to building the next step. And I believe so much in the power of musicals and musical storytelling, and I think to be able to do that in the form of a musical, be it on TV or on a Broadway stage or through some other medium, in a queer zine, in school curriculum, whatever it is, that is the conversation that we must be having right now, because if we don't reach people, we have no other option.
And I think about the people who have been shape-shifting and adapting forever. I think about queer people. I think about Black folks. I think about queer Black women and Black women specifically. I think about poor people who have had to make something out of nothing. Like, with little resources, we innately know that you adapt or you die. And so I would, invite everyone to look to those stories for the tools and the paths forward in this time that we feel, wholly consumed by change. To remember that people have been figuring out how to roll with the bad boy of change for many years.
There's a lyric in the Shapeshifters anthem, which is a song called "Persist, Resist, Survive."
I love that song.
Thank you. I do too. It gets me like amped up. It's like I just took like a Red Bull or something. But there's this lyric that says, "Code switcher, form drifters flourish and thrive, where every time, every place, because shapeshifters survive." And that's just the truth.
Beautiful. Well, I think that's a good segue to the last song that you're going to share with us tonight, which I think you told me might be in the first pilot that you're writing.
Yes,
Yep.
Correct. This song is called "Below Us," and one of the images that we're working with in this is this idea of being on the rooftop. And in quarantine, I think so many of us have had moments with rooftops in the past couple months, but being on a rooftop alone, not aware that there are other people all standing on the ledges of their roofs looking over, not knowing that if they were to leap, if they would fall or fly. And this is a character who's navigating the boundary between wanting to survive as a queer person and also letting that instinct for survival drive them through everything, even at the expense of other people, right? So there's this kind of double edge to that survival instinct. And this song, "Below Us," is about exploring that climb to the roof, that climb to ascend.
Wonderful. So we're going to Zhailon, did you have anything else to add?
No, I have nothing to say.
All right. So we're going to listen to "Below Us" now.
Everybody's struggling, everybody's doing time, everyone's escaping the hell inside their minds. Everyone wants freedom, everybody's in a bind, and they all live down below us. Everybody out in public, everybody in their rooms, everyone on screens and picture frames, everybody's nursing wounds. Everyone's dependent on their miracle coming soon, and they all live down below us. We live above and we watch that race climbing up higher. We live for the chase, scaling ladders tall as our bodies will bring to test our wings. at this broken town. I will be the one who made it out. Everybody's at the edge now, everybody's at the brink. Everyone who must ascend before they go extinct. And don't you dare look down, or your ship is bound to sink. Down, down, down below. Let's climb above people and traffic and power lines. Climb above Earth's atmosphere till my power shines. Scaling ladders tall as my body will bring to test my wings. Climb above buildings and street lights and skyscrapers. Climb above treetops, satellites, and planet Earth. I'll climb as high as my body will bring to test my wings. Staring down at this broken town, I will be the one who made it out. I will be the one. Everybody's got an ending. Everybody's got to go. Everyone except for me. I climb high, they fall down below. I am up, up, away. Take what's mine, let them know that they all live down below me.
Wonderful, wonderful.
That was spectacular.
Oh my
goodness.
God, so
That-
good.
Truth, you better riff down on Broken Town. That riff right there was spectacular. I gasped.
Clean, crystal clear.
In Tested, the first song, those chordal shift and the modulations that you have going on there, so incredible. And like immediately my ear is just like absolutely drawn into the song. It's incredible work, really. You two, awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
And I love this idea. I loved everything that you guys were talking about, but this idea of like a message in a bottle to your younger self and
Yeah.
the vernacular, like using the vernacular of comic books. I think there's such power in those characters. And I think that relating that to like the people in our lives, the people that populate our world, our ancestors, I think it's so good. I'm so here for it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
And one thing I want to let everyone know out there is that there are actually some hard driving rock, very hard driving rock songs too. So Truth, you have such a wonderful blend and gift with many different musical styles.
Thank you. Thank you
So I
much.
can't wait to hear it. I think is your iCloud available to the public, or do you have
Yeah,
a way to share?
you can access the SoundCloud, and we can post a little link to it in the chat as well.
Okay. Great.
Yes, totally.
Wonderful.
And we also just want to say before we get off this, we're currently putting together people to help us make this pilot. We have a lot of ideas about how it can be done remotely and in various ways, and we're speaking it out. Like we're ready to see it. We're ready to see it, and
Yes.
letting the story come into the hands of all of us.
So music people, TV people, money people, animators, you know, come our way.
Come our way. We want to hear from you.
Yes, put it out there for sure. All right, well, we'll say goodbye to Truth and Zhailon for now. We'll see you a little bit later in the program.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And Ryan and Adam, our
Hey,
final
Kathy.
writers of the summer. Hi. Hi.
Hi.
Hey, the
Hi, how are
caboose.
you are the
caboose.
caboose. Yes. Oh my gosh. I can't believe we had 18 writers in virtual residencies this summer. But it
And
seems to work pretty well.
it does. I was gonna say, like what you have accomplished here, and this was seamless, as we were talking about yesterday. It's seamless. We had such a great week, and you
Yeah.
know, obviously being in person is amazing in its own beautiful thing. But what you've been able to set up for all of us has been nothing short of awesome.
Well, I am dying to hear because I know many things have changed with Rope, including the title,
Yep.
since you sent in your application in February. So I'm going to turn it over to you two to tell us about the story and what you've been working on and how it's been evolving and leading up to our first song. So I'll say goodbye for now.
All right.
Right, you want to start? Yeah.
Yeah, happy to. Yeah. So, this show has had a really big evolution, which has been an amazing experience to go on with Adam. I started working on the show in 2013. My dear mother, who loves to send, sweet, inspirational emails, sent me an email that had this incredible image, which some of you may have seen. It's a picture of two dogs, sort of scrappy, maybe a little bit mangy, and one of the dogs has no eyes, just sockets, and is leashed at the collar to another dog, and they are walking through a field together. And the image struck me so much because the idea that one creature, the sighted creature, would be giving of its life to the unsighted one and helping him, and they become this pair, this sort of duo. And in thinking about not only how the sighted creature is giving, but also what the unsighted creature is giving to the sighted creature in terms of the life experience, and that image stayed with me, and I sat with it, and it became this idea of this musical in an America in a time that is not our own, and the idea that it sort of evolved into then, as of now, is the idea that two young men from totally different worlds, maybe parts of the country, one of them is blind and the other is sort of an untrustworthy nomad, and they're forced together and they form this unlikely attraction to one another. So ours is also a queer musical. And they fall in love, and they tie together with this charmed rope, hence the initial title of the piece, and that allows the blind boy to see through the eyes of the nomad, and together they form this relationship, and they fight against a world that is, of course, determined to sort of tear them apart. When I began working on this and I wrote a full draft of this piece, I did book, music, and lyrics, and as at least in my case, I find that I started here in New York as a composer and lyricist, and got into book writing partly because I wanted to be able to have conversations with book writers and be able to sort of speak the same language, which has really been a great experience. But in any case, I found that I'm very detail oriented, and I know anytime I teach musical theater, I always talk about, people say, what comes first, book, music, and lyrics, and all that stuff. And sometimes we forget that there's a fourth element, which is the story. And sometimes people conflate book and story. But I think at the end of the day, and I'm sure Truth would agree with me on this, that music and lyrics always want to serve the story, of course. And so therefore there is this sort of fourth element that is above all these other things. And I'm really obsessed with story. But I just put too many gosh darn details in this piece, and I overcomplicated it. And around that time, I met Adam, and I were sort of talking about collaborating together. And I read one of Adam's pieces called Contra, which is an incredible play with music that he's written. And with Contra, I was so struck by how he was able to tell this piece with just a few characters, and he was able to iris in on the heart of the piece, which is what I knew that Rope needed to do. And I gave it to Adam. And Adam, what happened?
Well, obviously I loved it. I read so Ryan and I have known each other for like 10 plus years. And we've worked together and we've been friends. And I shared Contra with Ryan, and we've always been talking about wanting to work together, and he said, I have this idea, this thing that I've written, but I really want to kind of blow it up. And he handed me the script, and he gave me his songs, and I read it and I listened to it, and I was like, this is amazing, this is huge. It was like it was really epic in a great way. But I think that I was interested in, like Ryan said, just sort of zooming in, like I don't know, I just get overwhelmed when I think about the kind of vastness of stories. So a lot of what I write is really small and has just a few characters playing a lot of different characters. And so anyway, I read this script and I was like, Ryan, I love this, but like, I don't know if I'm the guy for this project. Like, if I were to do this, I would really want to like explode and just start over. Are you okay with that? And so Ryan said this thing that I love, which is he was like, treat it like an estate sale. He was like, take the things that you like and leave what you don't behind. And so that's what we endeavored to do. And so we really started this process from scratch. And I love the relationships that he had. There were three main characters. One is a preacher, sort of like a parental figure. Then there's a blind boy, and then there's this lone wolf character. And we are just sort of zooming in on the kind of dynamic between the three of them, and then really eventually just between the two boys. And so that's been our week, has been sort of hashing that out. And Ryan and I think both tend to interestingly tend to be like lone wolf writers. I think we write a lot of projects kind of on our own, and a lot of the journey of this week has also been learning how we collaborate with each other, and how we had differences we had differing opinions about how certain elements in the story should play out, one of which is the rope, which is why it's formerly known as Rope. But I think that what the week has the kind of amazing part of the collaboration this week has been us having to advocate for our ideas and our instincts, and sort of justify them and defend them. And then it's kind of creates, my favorite kind of room is a best idea wins room. And I feel like that's really what we had this week. And we were not, neither of us was precious, and we killed our darlings. And I feel like now we have a really solid, almost complete Act 1, which fully integrated story and book, which I feel like is actually sort of more than we had anticipated getting done this week.
Yeah. It turns out in the world of best idea wins, Adam had a lot of the best ideas, which made the week really, really easy.
It was very convenient in that way. No, that's not true. The rope is reappearing in the story. Initially, in my rewriting of the tale, we had removed the rope, and Ryan has convinced me to bring it back. So now the rope is present again. The rope does have magical powers. The rope gives the blind character sight. But we sort of in the second act we have talked through the rest of the show, and in the second act we're kind of turning that idea on its head. So the story sort of begins with the blind character not being completely independent, having learned and sort of enjoying his life as a sightless person. And then I think as the first act continues, we learn there are sort of seeds of, yes, of course I would like to see, and then the love story and the rope and the tying sort of bring sight, and then in the second act we realize that the love sort of transcends the sight that the magic rope brings.
Yeah.
Ryan, do you want to? Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to finish that. One of the things that we talked a little bit about, and that you brought to my attention, which was so useful, is that we didn't want to imply that sightedness is superior in any way to sightlessness. And I think that one of the things that we explore in Act 2 is how the idea that though Clay, the lone wolf character who is initially sighted, seems to be the one that sees, he's actually more blind, right, than our sightless character, and that our sightless character is the one who sees more than anybody else does. And so, as Adam said, the two characters transcend the rope, their love transcends that, and we want to feel that these two characters have a shared experience, that two have truly become one by the end of the story.
Ryan, do you want to talk us into the song we'll be hearing first?
Sure, yeah. This is a song called The Stranger. You're going to see a video from a performance at 54 Below. You'll see a taller man and a shorter man, and the taller man is our lone wolf character, Clay. The shorter character is Shy. And they have just been forced together. They don't like each other very much, but they, through the song, there's a glimmer of hope that maybe there's more common ground than they realize. So the song is called The Stranger.
There's a stranger chasing behind me. What does he want? What does he need? There's a stranger chasing behind me. Do I escape or do I remain? God only knows, God only knows. He's coming on fast. Lights turn stable, journey when you're able. Gently tug the cable for the one you trust. Push on, fearless ranger, show the road your danger, and don't you mind the stranger you leave in your dust, in your dust. Here's a stranger, mountain behind me. Why does he run? Where will he end? Here's a stranger, mountain behind me. Why is he so pale? Why is he so cool? God only knows, God only knows. And he's moving so fast. But don't you soften, preacher's near the coffin. Once he's in, you're often on your merry way. Through the mayfly swarming, it's just the night that's warming. Now close the fish are forming in your heart at bay. Collect your pay. Stranger, breaking before me. What has he seen? Where has he been? There's a stranger breaking before me. Never before, tough stone is made. Yet on we go, onward we go. Onward we go. Tell me, stranger, you're there beside me. Why do you care? Where do you come? Tell me, stranger, you're there beside me. Where leads the road? Where are we wandering? I wanna know, I wanna know. For this moment is past. Tell me, stranger, you're there beside me. Why do you care? Why do you come? Tell me, stranger, you're there beside me. Where leads the road?
Beautiful. It's so fun to see people at 54 below.
Right?
Right.
Back
Real
when we could be
people.
in a place. That's right.
Yeah. So it's funny, people always ask the question, you know, what comes first? Book, lyrics, music. And this is a very unusual case when the songs were already written. And I'm just wondering, how did you navigate that? Could be a challenge. I would assume it would be a challenge. Or was it not that bad?
My experience with musicals, with writing musicals, or I've written 2 plays with music, and so far both of them are written with existing songs that exist. So actually, I really enjoy the challenge of having these like beautiful, amazing songs and figuring out what's the sort of most what's the best placement for them? How do I hold them up to the light? And so I enjoy it. I really like the challenge of it, and the kind of estate sale thing was a fun challenge for me. And also it was like an embarrassment of riches. The songs in Ryan's score. So I had like it was actually hard to pick the ones that I liked the most. So
that's great. We have a comment from Neil Bartram, who is one of our sounding board members. He says, I'm a big fan of both of these guys, just wondering if and how the present global situation has influenced the direction of the piece.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
One of the things, you know, we initially, the show was written in like the late 1900s, like that was the setting. And obviously America was a very different place. But one of the things we've talked a lot about is the idea of making this sort of a mythical America where the audience might not be totally sure if this is 1823 or 1923 or Donald Trump's 2023, where like the world is like a complete messy shit show. And so for us, that allowed us a spirit of sort of lawlessness and a spirit of American desperation. And so we really did want to feel, and while at first glance there might be elements of this piece that does make it feel like it's America from the past, we're really, really, really interested in exploring a lot of contemporary issues and contemporary social issues in the piece, which is a lot of what Adam and I have been talking about.
How about you, Adam?
Yeah, I feel like in the sort of conceiving of the new version of the show, it actually felt like how do I say this? It felt useful to create our own universe to kind of tell the story that we wanted to tell, and it sort of actually created more freedom and more space around it. And so that's what we ended up going with.
Yeah.
Wonderful. We have a question from Kyle Puccia, who is one of our earlier summer writers. Do you plan on writing any new songs to go with the updated book?
Oh, for sure. I would never leave Adam hanging. And what we found actually in the process is that the first 2/3 of the show, the big beats are sort of more or less the same, and a lot of the songs sort of survive. From where we're at in the process, there's going to be a lot of new songs, a lot of new songs. So I'm really excited about that collaboration with Adam.
Cool. Well, do you want to set up our final song from the musical formerly known as Rope?
Yeah. So one of the songs that Ryan wrote was this beautiful hymn. And when I heard it, I heard rain. And so our show it's now at the top of the show. The space is black. And we hear rain. And then we hear this beautiful hymn. And this is how the show starts.
Great.
My last she tied her lace to me to make our love forever.
Yes.
Yes.
Beautiful.
Oh, that last song.
Hmm.
Oh my
The
gosh.
vocal arrangement, the harmonies, the stops, the calls.
The lyrics, though, too. I mean,
Mhm.
I just keep thinking about the imagery of lace tying someone together.
Mhm.
Like, you can tie lace pretty strong, I'm sure, but it's not the hard force of like handcuffing someone to you or chaining someone to you. So it like puts me in the place of like, I'm gonna lace myself to you, but you still have to make a choice about being tethered to me in some way. You know, there's a malleability to lace
And a delicatness.
and a delicatness
Yeah.
and a softness that is fascinating. And to have softness be the thing that ties people together is
Mhm.
queer and wonderful.
Yeah. Also, just love, you know, hearing you both talk about your collaboration with each other and how it's been, you know, starting from one place with the songs and really just the freedom to be in that relationship that gives it space to evolve and not say, okay, it has to be this, or well, I'm working with this already, so can you? It really sounds like a very like two-way kind of moment, and that's
Yeah.
so important in any collaboration.
And we've been
Yeah.
talking a lot too in our own process. So it was great to hear y'all talk about this, like the distinction between story and book, or story and a set of events, and story and plot. The story really is the element that takes us from beginning to end in terms of an emotional journey, and like really being fascist with ourselves about figuring out what is the story, not just what happens, but
Yeah.
you know, what's the story. So it was great to hear y'all kind of validate the importance of that conversation.
So we have a couple of questions from the chat. Emily was wondering, have any blind artists been part of the development?
That's a huge part of the next step for this piece, 100%. We've been fortunate enough to do some interviews and also to read a couple of memoirs where every bit of the piece that is that does relate to the blind experience has come from those memoirs and those experiences. But we are 100% committed to making sure that blind artists are participating in this piece, and very possibly playing the role of Shy, you know, the blind character.
And from Kalani Kwepo, who's also one of our writers of this summer, he said, from the recorded songs you presented today, it looks to be deliberately a diverse cast. Is the cast written with specific colors? Those are his words.
Yeah. Not yet. Yeah, that's just not a thing we're specifically thinking about yet.
Okay.
We
and
want,
Gigi,
yeah.
Go ahead, Brian.
No, we want a very, very, very diverse cast that is as representative as our country is.
Yeah.
And Gigi Bolt says, really gorgeous. A touch of Ireland and maybe even Beckett.
That's really fair. The original version of this piece, there was an Irish immigrant element to it, but I'm ultimately going for Americana. I'm sure some of those Irish touches will remain.
And Betsy Militello has another comment about the estate sale reference. It sounds more like you packed together for a trip to the frontier and could only take a few things that would matter in a new world. Exciting.
I love that. That's a good one. That's a good way to say it. We're going to say that from now on.
Well, we're coming to a close. I did want to take a moment. I can't believe it's the end of our summer programming, and we are so grateful to have amazing donors who pay for every aspect of these retreats, the stipends for the writers, the food, etc. And I wanted to take a moment to thank them. The National Endowment for the Arts, the New York State Council on the Arts. The lead supporters for the Rope Residency are Amy and Roger Faxon. The underwriting supporters for Shapeshifters are Dave Batke and Josana Burko. We're very grateful to them. We're grateful to the many people who are watching who have donated. And if any of you watching are inspired because of these wonderful writers to donate to Rhinebeck Writers Retreat, there'll be a link in the YouTube chat, and there's also a link in the description down below in YouTube. We would very much appreciate your support of our future writers. And also keep your eyes open. We'll be sending out an email in a couple of weeks announcing another musical that we are developing now. So more big news despite the pandemic. So before we say goodbye to everyone, do you all have any final thoughts or comments? Or
I would, just say thank you, everyone, for the opportunity to do this. And also just to say this is how anything you enjoy in the musical landscape gets made. It's from people coming together, giving resources, sharing resources, and giving space for writers to get together, for directors and storytellers to get together and have the time outside of trying to figure out how we're going to eat month to month and make the stories that need to be told today.
Yes.
So as you think about how crucial a time this is, think about all the artists in your own life and think about the things that they may be going through right now. Not just writers, but also actors and performers and singers and people in production and designers. Reach out and ask them what they need in this time.
absolutely, that beautifully said.
Beautifully said.
And
You said it.
And I think that's a nice way to end our program. So I will say goodbye to all of you, and thank you so much for sharing your musicals with us tonight.
Good job, y'all.
Yes.
Yeah.
Likewise.